Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering treats and for here to go. Two episodes that reference food in their title. I need to start going back to grasping at straws to connect episode pairs. I find the Enterprise amusing. What else can I do to introduce these episodes? They both include shenanigans? Well, all episodes include shenanigans, so I guess that's a half-assed try. Anyway, moving on to the part where I say, as always, thanks to everyone watching the video on this fine day. And now, let's just get right into it. Oh yay, a Gary episode! Remember how for like 90% of Gary-focused episodes I end the episode feeling disappointed? Yeah, so take a wild guess about how I feel upon watching this episode. Now, let me just say that I may or may not be setting things up so that you'll be surprised by the time I finish this review. Or maybe not. I like keeping y'all on your toes sometimes. But anyway, one other thing before I jump into this one, but I'd like to take a moment to say that this episode is the very last episode to use one of my absolute favorite tracks in this show, Kamakani B. God, I'm just getting choked up just thinking about it. I miss this track. Bring it back. Just bring it back, man. Alright, let's just get into the episode now. So, this is a small thing, but I really like when the Krusty Krab has a TV in it. It makes it feel like more of a real restaurant to me. I mean, not all restaurants have TVs, but I guess the kind of feel I get from the Krusty Krab makes it seem like a restaurant that would have a TV. And then more importantly, having the TV here really elevates the sitcom vibes as the characters gather to watch the TV, which is what happens in this episode. I just love those vibes. In this case, which is basically the case for all episodes that introduce a TV out of the blue in the Krusty Krab, the TV is a setup for the plot as SpongeBob learns about these snail bites treats that he decides to get for Gary. Also, I liked how he shouted at Squidward not to change the channel. It was funny and it kind of reminds me of Squidville. When SpongeBob gives Gary a treat, the snail basically becomes addicted to them, which is a woe of pet owners everywhere, I'm sure. The entire sequence of Gary doing all sorts of tricks and stuff for treats is at least visually interesting, and I like the track Bikini Bottom Bound, so that's nice. This sequence is a montage, so I'll mostly forgive its lack of comedy for that. It's a good way of advancing the plot, and I love seeing how talented Gary is, so you know what, I like it. Gary manages to eat all the snail bites by doing this, and because it's night, SpongeBob decides to hit the hay. I'm sure you can guess where the episode goes from here. Gary keeps SpongeBob up with his incessant meowing, and this is where the episode begins to lose me. I've said this before, but clearly they write Gary as a character with advanced sentience, even though he is a pet. He can even talk in his own way. So why does he not understand that they are simply out of snail bites and SpongeBob wants to sleep so he cannot get them at that moment? You see how that doesn't make sense? And it makes his behavior become slightly irritating, which I don't like because how can I, number one Gary the Snail fan, be annoyed by Gary's behavior? That's just unnatural, and at the very least unbecoming. And another reason why Gary flipping out about this is just not even a good plot is because there's nothing SpongeBob can do. So it's just frustrating seeing Gary demand these treats that SpongeBob literally cannot get because they're sold out. At least SpongeBob is able to momentarily get peace at work. That is until Gary shows up. At this point, I'm along for the ride because, like I said, being upset at Gary in an episode is not something that I want to be, so I choose to try and let it go, and even if it does still, annoy me. I did like the joke with Nat actually giving SpongeBob an idea for how to get more snail bites. See, seeing SpongeBob be an exhausted pet owner is actually not that bad. It's everything else that's annoying me. Anyway, SpongeBob is completely unable to get Gary any snail bites, but he travels across the world to see if there's any that he can find because he's unable to say no to his pet. Also, I liked the cameo of Twitch here too, as well as all the different locations that we see. But anyway, I do like this idea of SpongeBob being unable to say no to Gary. Other than the scene of Patrick, I feel like this was only subtly hinted at throughout the episode, and I think it could have been made more explicit, and it would have helped the episode feel more, I don't want to say cohesive because it's not like it's not cohesive, but maybe it would have been a better flow. I don't know. Either way, I really liked the last few minutes of this episode though, I will say that, and I like how anticlimactic SpongeBob saying no to Gary is, and then Patrick's last scene at the end, that was also funny. I also feel like throughout this review, I've been ragging on treats a little bit too much. In general, it's a decent episode. I've just got a number of problems with it, but none of those problems feel really big. I don't know. I don't dislike this episode. Let me make that clear. I like it well enough. It's just, I feel like it's half and half on whether I would ever seek this episode out for a rewatch, and that's a big metric when it comes to my ratings, so I think I'll put this episode in my good tier, where it comes in with a score of 7.4 out of 10. Up next is an episode that I keep getting mixed up with Drive-Thru for Here to Go, or I don't really get it mixed up with Drive-Thru, but it's like every time I think of this episode, that episode keeps popping up even though I know it's a different one, and I don't know how to undo that association in my mind. I would say doing a review of it would be the answer, but, well, I don't think that's going to fix it for me. But hey, at least I've improved. I used to just not remember this episode at all. The beginning of For Here to Go is entertaining enough. I liked the joke with SpongeBob getting stuffed into the horn like this is Band Geeks, and you know I like a good Mr. Krabs trying to drum up business plot. I also like a good Krusty Krab business practices plot, and this episode is kind of both. Anyway, Mr. Krabs has decided to put on a competition for guessing the number of sesame seeds in a jar. Whoever gets it correct gets a free Krabby Patty. After a few different Bikini Bottomites offer up some incorrect guesses, Plankton suddenly appears to try his hand at guessing it, but Mr. Krabs refuses to allow it. Of course, that is until Plankton calls up the BBB, or Bogus Business Bureau, which I think is hilarious. Honestly, if Mr. Krabs had given Plankton a lifetime ban from the Krusty Krab for attempting to steal his property, there probably would not be an issue here. Maybe I could file this under instances of Mr. Krabs being short-sighted. Anyway, the BBB forces Mr. Krabs to give Plankton a chance to guess, and Plankton of course sciences his way to guessing a correct answer, meaning he gets a Krabby Patty. Also, I really liked the title card art for, or time card art for a lot of boring math later. It just had a really cool background. Of course, Mr. Krabs doesn't want to give Plankton that patty, but since the BBB is still there, they force him to cough one up. And see, by this point of the episode, I'm realizing that it would have worked a lot better as a short, because from here, the plot kind of drags on a bit. I mean, I do enjoy Mr. Krabs' antics around not letting Plankton get a patty. Like, the puppet show was hilarious. Clancy Brown was really just having a ball in the studio that day, wasn't he? Squidward's little bit about distracting the bureaucrat with code violations was a funny little joke too, and I love the running gag of SpongeBob unwittingly helping Plankton all throughout the episode. The lad is just a little bit too naive. Finally, after some much appreciated dramatics about giving Plankton the patty, the title of the episode comes into play because Mr. Krabs is able to get his way by making sure that Plankton can't take the Krabby Patty to go. Plankton then gets the patty cut out of him by Karen, which is hilarious. The whole bit beforehand about the anesthetic was something that I'm sure went over many kids' heads, since I don't think most kids know what anesthetic is, at least not by name. It's times like these that I understand what that one study was talking about with this show having a lot of vocab words for a kids show. Notice how it's always the witty humor that allows for this. Anyway, Plankton is able to reverse engineer the patty's formula using the patty that he had been forced to eat, except for the part where that reverse engineered formula is garbage because his patty tastes like stomach acid. Well, that's disgusting. Does this mean that Plankton, or Karen really, is synthetically making stomach acid? See, this is what I mean. Plankton and Karen need to have new jobs as scientists or inventors or something. They'd make so much more doing that. And yes, I know there's about 50 million tweets, comments, and at this point probably videos making this exact point, but I'm gonna make it again because I can. So, For Here to Go was a pretty entertaining episode that I only had like one or two problems with, which to me means it's a really good episode. Honestly, this latter half of Season 8 has been very strong, and this episode continues to trend. Hopefully now I'll no longer forget most of this episode's existence. Hopefully. Anyway, all of this is why this episode is going in my great tier, where it comes in with a score of 8.7 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. I'm not really sure where I want to go with these today. I think I'm at the time of year where my extra brain power has jumped out the window. It'll come back maybe in a couple months, probably. This could be indicative of me needing a real break, but I won't be getting that till I graduate, so... Alright, well, I'm not going to dump all my problems onto unsuspecting YouTube watchers, so let me move on. I'm thinking about how I mentioned Mr. Krabs giving Plankton a lifetime ban from the Krusty Krab. I'd be interested in an episode about that. Plankton paranoia kinda goes there, but not exactly. It could be interesting. Alright, well, that's all I can muster up for today, so I'm gonna go ahead and close things out here, and I'll see y'all in the next review.